Chuck and Bob with you on your Thursday as we get you ready for the high school football weekend, the final regular season weekend in Michigan, and the opening weekend of the 48th annual Indiana High School State Tournament. But let's start north of the border with an interesting battle up in Berrien County. Buchanan and Brandywine, both clad in maroon, will take the field on Friday night. And when you take a look at this Buchanan team, Bob, they've already clinched the BCS title. They'd like an undefeated regular season.
Well, and like a lot of teams, they would have liked to have played all of their games, but unable to do so this year. But they are 5-0, and Mark Prairie done a nice job. Their first 3 games were canceled this year. They have 10 seniors on their defense, Chuck, with just 1 junior, and that's one of the reasons they've been so effective.
Well, and the passing of Connor Nagle, what a story this young man has been. Number 30 right here. Scheduled to be the backup, Levi Zimmer goes down in game 1 with a knee injury, and Legault has taken the reins. He had 3 touchdown passes last week against Niles. So Brandywine's got to find a way to keep him under control. And when we talk about Brandywine, Bob, here's a team that lost to Berrien Springs last week, 44-21. But Mike Nate's team runs the option very well.
They do, and they score enough, but in the second half last week they got outscored 20-0. So they had a couple of turnovers, and the defense wasn't able to hold Berrien Springs. But this is a good football team, and you know, when these rivalry get together, this is going to be really a big headbanger.
And I like Gabe Guyan at quarterback for the Bobcats. We'll see if he's got enough to solve the Bucks. Let's come down into the state of Indiana. We'll start in Class 1A with Winnebago at South Central. John Hendricks having a very successful first season as the head coach of the Warriors. He's got a couple of juniors on his offense in Russell Compton and Hayden Clark that he really relies on, but really the calling card of Winnebago's been defense.
Well, it has been, and when you look at last week, they won over Triton, a good football team, 10-9, but they forced 3 turnovers in that game, and that'll be a big factor in the game against South Central. You know, there was a time when the draw came out, and if you got South Central Satellites in the first round, you got a tough draw. This year, you got to look at Winnebago and say this is going to be a chance for them to advance.
Last 4 games, 4 wins for Winnebago. They've only given up 29 points, but South Central's not an easy out. Satellite's sitting there at 4-5. They've got a dynamic offense. I like Brady Glisick, their dual threat quarterback. Brendan Carr is a dynamic player on offense. The problem for the Satellites is sometimes the defense seems to show up and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, they've given up points of 47, 48, and 56 this season. So when it goes south, it's really gone south for South Central.
But it's an interesting contrast because the strength of Winnebago, the defense, going against the strength of South Central, the offense. So we'll see how that one goes. Class 2A, Central Noble at Fairfield. Cougars come in with a record of 4-5. They've got a nice quarterback in Sawyer Yoder that didn't help them on September 4th when they lost 32-6 to Fairfield, and Matt Thacker has it rolling in Benton right now.
He really does, and can you imagine an undefeated season? We saw these guys a couple years ago. We were thinking that they had a lot of work to do, but Matt Thacker's really helped this team evolve, and they've got some outstanding players. Corey Lance is an outstanding quarterback and a great leader on this team. You know, Hayden Kilgore in his first season had to go up against Fairfield, and he came my way on the short end, but I'm sure he took some copious notes.
As you look at the offense here, primarily for Fairfield, I think defense is a bit of an underrated story there. They've only let 2 of their 8 opponents into double digits this season. We'll see if they can continue to stymie Central Noble Friday night. In Class 3A, it's Washington and Tippecanoe Valley. Now, we had this game as the opener last year in the tournament at TCU School Field. This year, it's down in Death Valley. Both teams last year, as I recall, were 6-3. Washington kind of the reverse this year at 3-6, but they have improved in recent weeks.
They have won their last 2 games, and again, they've got some talent on this team. Jeremy and Terrence Johnson are outstanding, and last time out, they did beat John Glenn. And again, they averaged 41 points per game the last 2 games. So Todd Stamich has his offense seems to be on track for what he wants them to do.
Washington hasn't changed its philosophy. They still like to run the football an awful lot. So Valley's got to find a way to stop that. A lot of new faces on Valley from last year to this year. I like their quarterback, Brendan McBride. He's got 14 touchdown passes this year. Jamison Virgil with over 700 yards rushing. So a very balanced attack for Steve Moriarty and the Vikings. Should be an interesting one down in 3A.
Last time Tippy Valley was in action, they lost to Southwood, which is a story that just is a heartbreaker for what's going on around the state and around the country, really.
Yeah, in case you missed it during the week, Southwood will not participate in the tournament. They've had a COVID outbreak in their school, so a team that's ranked number 3 in 1A undefeated on the year, coaches last year, isn't going to get to play in the tournament.
Tough story. Peru going through the same thing.
Class 4A, I think the headliner in this one is at Intera Field in Middlebury. Number 5 Leo takes on number 10 Northridge. Honey of a ball game.
Boy, they're going to be bopping heads in this one. And I tell you what, Tom Wogelman's defense has done a great job this year. Now, they did give up a lot of yardage to Concord, but kept them out of the end zone. So the red zone was actually a green zone when you look at it from Northridge. And they've got some power. They've got some people that can run the football and throw the football, and a very prolific offense.
Dominic Crowder, you see him there, number 1. Logan Hooley, the quarterback. That offense has been clicking in recent weeks. The teams that have done very well against Northridge this year are the option teams like Warsaw and Mishawaka. Not sure that is necessarily a description of Leo. Both these teams really get it going with their defense. Leo's had 5 shutouts. Northridge has had 4 shutouts. So the question will be, who can solve that defensive problem on the other side? That's going to be who comes away and faces the winner of Northwood and Wawasee next week.
This will be the best high school playoff game ever played at Northridge on their new field, Intera Field, and it's a beautiful facility. And again, Northridge has played that really tough schedule. And Leo has played a good schedule, but again, they have 5 shutouts. It's going to be tough to score on them.
4A Sectional 19 is where that matchup occurs. In 4A Sectional 18 at Jackson Field, a pair of 3 and 6 teams square off, Logansport and Riley, although I would caution you, if you're taking Logansport lightly because of their record, they're a couple breaks away from being an above 500 team.
And they play in a tough conference, and they have a tradition that has been down a little bit, but is moving in the right direction. And I think they are doing a good job. Mike Johnson's a Hall of Fame coach who took over at Logansport, and he's got them moving in the right direction. And I think that's a really good thing. Barry's beat Anderson last time out. They're probably a favor against Washington, but Washington, as you said, Riley has been playing well of late. And they've got some talent. We saw them early in the season, and they've done a nice job under Justin Kinsey.
Yeah, they started off 0-3. They turned it around with 3 straight wins and then lost their last 3. But as you take a look, junior Chris Krause has had a nice year running the football. Offense has been inconsistent, which really kind of puts some pressure on that defense. They have some players defensively that can help them out. Tyson Lee, Sylvester Orozco. They've just got to come up with the effort tomorrow night against a good running attack from Logansport with Gavin Barron and Alberto Matias.
No question about it, and Austin Karszewski's got to have a good night. And they do have some big play weapons, Chuck. We kind of wondered when we did the game early why they weren't maybe going to their wide receiver a little bit more, but he plays both ways, so we'll see what happens with Riley. But again, it should be a good matchup.
And then the game we'll have for you on TV-46, live on Facebook, YouTube, and the Champions Network at 7:15, and on TV-46 at 11. New Prairie and Plymouth, our first look at these 2 teams this year. So let's start with New Prairie. Casey McKim, in his first year as head coach, has a team that's 5-4. You look at their 4 losses: Andrean, Penn, Marion, and Elkhart. What a murderer's row they've had to face. And yet they've kind of changed their style a little bit. You saw a little bit of passing there, but really it's the running back, Noah Mungia, who gets them going.
He is so quick and just a youngster. And you think about what his future is there at New Prairie. Not sure about their passing game. They've had some good games with Ian Skarnog, but they don't like to throw the ball a whole lot. But their defense is really tough. And you look at the Weinberg twins are doing a good job of defensive end linebacker. And where are they going to put the big guy? Well, wherever he wants to be.
Yeah, Hunter Whitenack can help you on both sides of the ball. 6'8", 315 pounds, and a D1 recruit. Meanwhile, if you look at the Plymouth Rockies, been a rocky year on Rocky Top. They come in with a record of 1-5. John Barron's had all kinds of problems to have to deal with, including his own COVID battle, which has sidelined this team now for 4 weeks. I think it's really rough to tell what we're going to see tomorrow.
Well, they are coming off a win. The last time they played, they beat Wawasee. But again, this is a team that's also had some transition at quarterback. They've had a couple of guys who stepped up and really helped them as a running back. But Jake Reichert is tremendous. He leads them in rushing, he leads them in passing, he's second in pass receiving, and he drives the bus.
Well, he's going to have to drive the team on some drives tomorrow night if Plymouth is going to come away with a win in this one. But we'll bring it to you tomorrow night and look forward to being down at the Rock Pile for New Prairie and Plymouth in Class 4A Sectional 18. Until then, For my partner, Bob Nagle, it's Chuck Freeby. Thanks for joining us here on social media.